All right, and welcome back to another Conquest Corner. On this particular one, we're going to go through the new Centaur units coming out for Old Dominion, the Kerykes, and the Prodromoi. Now, I might pronounce these a little bit different as time goes on, but I'm going to try to at least be consistent. My Greek is not too great. So, point of this episode, like I said, we're going to go through those two units. These are coming out as of recording time, exactly 1 month. So in 1 month, we're going to have these things in our hands. And I want to talk about the two, and we're going to talk about I'm really excited about the one, and I'm much less excited about the other, and we'll get into all of that. The one thing I do want to talk about briefly before we actually get into them, even though we're going to talk about how I'm not a huge fan of one of them, is just the look. I think these guys look absolutely amazing. I've been really curious up until they showed up what they're going to look like and what exactly they're going to do for them. And, I thought they might be a little bit more skeletal, like the Cataphracti are, but no, these things are actually look pretty meated. I do a lot of the Vetigris effects and things like that you see. So a lot of sort of the wear and tear for my Old Dominion. So I'm really excited to get back, paint some more Old Dominion, paint some really just mucked up armor. So I'm excited for the models at least. And we'll talk about the units. Now, keep in mind, if you are trying to purchase anything from them, if you want to do it through their web store, that we do have a discount code. It's Terrain Kickers. There's a spot in the show notes with that code as well. It saves you 10%, helps out the show as well. We do thank everyone who has used it, which honestly has been a good amount of people. But like I said, it helps out both sides, and it both just helps grow the game because more people have stuff, but also just shows us when I don't know where people are from it, of course. But when you see people come in, and I can tell when it's like a pre-order based thing, so you can see, well, there's a lot of excitement for this new stuff coming out and all of that. So, I'm really curious to see it grow. Also, if anyone has used it, put it in the comments below and just tell me the sorts of things that you got. I'm always curious to see what people got. I know at least a couple people got like some of the big army boxes just by numbers I saw and things like that. Kind of curious what people are picking up. What are people playing? I know it's popular in my area, but I'm curious what's popular in your area. And how big your scene is. I know at least in ours in New Jersey, we have at least 3 big stores I can think of that carry quite a bit. Rogue State Gaming, Maplewood Hobby, and Wargamers Guild, and they're kind of spread out through the state. So I know we have pretty big communities here, but always curious about that. But let's get to the models that we wanted to talk about today. So I'm going to talk about the one I'm least thrilled with, and that's the Prodromoi. Prodromoi maybe is the better way to say it, but so for who can take them, that's Strategos and Ziliarch. They both take those particular centaurs at a mainstay. No one else does. So these are both spots where if you did want to take them, since they're mainstay, it makes it a little bit easier, especially if you're taking a foot Strategos. It gives you an option there. You're probably taking, again, since neither of them can go into it, you're taking a unit of Anathati or Legionnaires already. But if you want more units of Cataphracti or more units of Praetorian Guards, or for the Ziliarch, my Ziliarch obviously goes in my Varangian Guard, which means he needs a mainstay. When the Centaurs are out, they could be your mainstay if you don't care about Legionnaires. I think you should, but I could see if you already have them in other spots, and I could care less about Praetorian Guard personally. I'll go back and redo that since they made drastic changes to both at some point, but that's not what this one's about. But there's good spots to include them. And these are both one of these characters I think you should be bringing most of the time, and it's probably the Strategos because he's got the absolute best supremacy ability that our army has, unless you're doing Fallen Divinity, of course. But let's talk about that. Pardon me. So, 150 points, they are medium. That's new. In the last set, they were not mediums, they were lights, and that's one of my biggest issues with them. They're move 8, Clash 2. Clash 2 is very common for our stuff. We usually have lower stats, and then we get better as we go along. 4 attacks, 4 wounds, defense 2 with 1 of 8. They have a leader model, which is good, so you get that extra attack, you get 5th attack on that one unit. They have base cleave 1, which is pretty nice. Again, we tend to have either like really good cleave or no cleave. Either will take you out because we have cleave 2, 3, line breaker, all those sort of rules. Or we just swing a bunch of attacks at you. Here's something that's hitting a little bit of that middle, which we don't have quite as much of, I don't feel. Especially compared to some other factions when I do it. We tend to, not have the giant amount of attacks on all the units. And also, I think that's something, of course. Shield, so in the correct arc, They're defense 3, really. And Vessel, of course, terrifying. Everything's undead except for the cultists and assassins. Memories of old. Okay, so they'll get brutal impact 1, and they'll get 2 impact hits. So early, they're kind of lackluster, but a little bit later on, at least they're getting the impact in, then they're getting swings. With that cleave, gives you a better shot with those 4 attacks to get a little something into them. Additional stands of 50 points each. In a moment, I'll go through like thoughts in terms of how to use them and stuff like that, because I do want to make sure I discuss that. But I have some problems with these models as is currently. And again, this is a dual box. So part of the discussion when we look at a dual box is to say, which one would I build? You know, you have a limited budget. Everyone has a limited budget. You have a limited budget. You're going to buy 1 to 2 boxes. Do you build one of each? Do you build all of one? What do you do? Or if you're only going to buy 1 box, which one do you do, kind of thing? And these are not the ones I'm going to build. And a few reasons why. 1, they put them to medium. I had to go back and check. I checked in the old version of the rulebook. And if you take a look in the old version of the rulebook, where are they? There it is. They were light. Everything else was the same number of points, saves, abilities. Everything was identical, except they were light. When I tested them in the past, I played them when they were light. I used some 3D printed models that I made that were more of skeletons. I forget who I got them from, but they were like skeleton centaurs. And as lights, I loved them. And the reason is very simple. 1, move 8 means that double move to start with the open up means I have a really good reinforcement line early. Being a move 8 cav light with a cleave 1 means I can go and hunt down. We talked about in the cultists and assassins video where I said, hey, assassins doing a pretty decent job at hunting down the early game lights that are going to cause you problems. Things with good range. Things that get to, say, either move or want to get to your backfield fast. They can handle those. When these guys were light, they handled them even better. Because as a cav unit, at move 8, they're a bit more maneuverable. If you can wait out or time it right to get the impact, they could actually do some damage there. But also with cleave 1 means if they hit some of those things, they actually can get into them. I know a lot of those things have like maybe some sort of evade and all, but if they happen to have any armor, you're removing that. They're going off their evade, and you can hit them before they start really hitting you. And with defense 3, with no resolve, because they would be shooting at you, again, saying a shooting at you from the front, that's okay. Half the hits go to wounds. 4 wounds each. Maybe I lose a stand. I get 2 into you. I'll tie you down until I either take you out or someone else can come and help. Or even if I get stuck in, without having the resolve means I stick around a bit longer. It's going to take you that 1 extra attack, 1 extra round, whatever it is to get through me. And that means I've done my job better. And for 150 points, that's pretty cheap to go chase down, like, say, units of Bow Chosen, units of Marksman clones, and things like that. Things that I'm concerned about when my army is trying to get there, because the army in general is pretty slow. But now they're medium, which means now they're delayed a turn, which means they're no longer helping your reinforcement line the same way they did before. If you happen to bring a different light, they're probably up far enough. They could still help you, of course, but they're not doing nearly as much with that. They're taking longer to be able to get into people, which means I'm not getting that sort of, I don't necessarily want to call it an alpha strike, but sort of very early strike to at least tie down my problems. And yeah, they're cheaper than our other medium cavalry, the Cataphracti, but they're so much worse in every way, effectively almost every way, that if I'm looking for a medium cavalry that wants to get into someone, I'm taking Cataphracti instead, each and every time, personally. The only reason, if I didn't have the points, maybe, but, okay, the Cataphracti are 1 slower. They don't have cleave. They do have more attacks. Cleave 1 is very good, but not having comparatively, I don't think the cleave 1 is suddenly getting you through things that were really going to stop either side. It just helps you get through more of the middle to light, which is something. Don't get me wrong, that is something. They're less defense because they only get up to 3 counting the shield. Cataphracti are 3 and then add a shield, so they're really 4. And defense 4 with no resolve sticks. And the key is their memory can get them to 2 impact hits each with Brutal 1. Okay, let's say it's a unit of 3, just for ease. You know what? For same points, let's make it a unit of 4. Let's compare very similar. So if we're comparing it similar, that's 8 impact attacks. Let's say everyone gets there, so 2 per each. 8 impact attacks. You're hitting about 1/3 of those. So you're looking a bit over a 2. Said, we can do this with spreadsheets. I don't want to go through that right this person now, but I figured I'd pull a calculator to make sure people understand this. 8 attacks, you're hitting 1/3, so divided by 3, so about 2.6. You can, if you want to do easy math, just round the numbers, because that gives you an impression. And if you want more of to not be overestimating, just round everything down. But let's say, okay, it's about 2.6, about 3. Cleave 1, let's assume they have an average resistance. So they're taking about 1/3. You're looking at 1 to maybe 2 that's going to go through. So let's say, just for nice numbers, you get about 3. They're taking 1 to 2. They're taking a resolve. They're going to take maybe about another 1. So you're averaging about 2 to 3. Now, again, that of course could spike. You could theoretically do 16 if everything goes your way, all hits and all those sorts of things. But realistically, you're looking at 2 to maybe 3 wounds from that. And then you potentially have your swings afterwards. When we take a look at the Cataphractii instead. All right, we'll say 3 stands because that's the same equal in terms of points. That's 12 of them. But by the time they have the impact, because remember, these guys aren't getting impact without the memories. Let's assume they have their memories as well. They're now 4 each, so that's the 12. And they have shock, so they're hitting on 3s. So now you're getting 6 hits instead of the 2 to maybe 3 hits. And again, that's average. Obviously, the Cataphractii have a better floor, and they have a better ceiling. So on average, they're hitting about twice as many. The brutal impact on this is 2. So if we assume you're going off of a standard sort of defense, and you're not like cranked up with evades, now you're probably looking at 3 to 4 wounds. I'm assuming, say you were 4, but I'm removing it by 2. You're on about 2s or so. So we're looking at 6. You're only saving about 1/3 of them. So I'm looking at about 4 or so. Again, it could vary a little bit. Depends on exact stats. If they happen to have a worse characteristic, then it could go much higher. But now I'm looking at 4 or so. Make you take your Terrifying, getting another, your Resolve to getting another, realistically off of 4, probably about 1 or 2. We'll average say 2. You're looking at 6. So you're looking at effectively doubling the output. That's sort of the average. You're going into someone sitting on like a save of a 2 after your minuses. Where the Centaurs, they're really more of a save of a 3. But the Cataphractii can do a lot more. 1, they'll survive better with their shields. 2, when they are hitting you like that, they do have a much better chance at spiking, getting a lot more through. And for 20 extra points, I can take a Hierotos. And I honestly do. I take bigger than three blocks. But when I take a bigger unit, I take a Hierotos. Because if I break you on the impact, I get to do it again. And I can charge twice. So there's a chance I can charge you, break you, impact again, destroy you, charge someone else. I've done that with Strategos multiple times, where then you can take your free reform in the middle, and I've wiped units out. Yes, they're more points. But I don't think the Prodromoi are going to be doing so much more with their savings. A 50-point savings is a stand. A set of 3 of these, I don't honestly know if they're going to get enough through, so I'd probably go to 4 just to be able to get a little bit more. And then I'd probably rather have 3 Cataphractii if I want to take a small unit. Yes, the Cleave one is very helpful. I'm not saying they're bad. I think they have their spots, but for me, if I'm only building one, I'm building the others. I'm more excited about the others, and a lot of it has to do with what they changed about them. Being medium, honestly, I think hurts. I prefer them as when they were light. I don't think they were inappropriate at that stage, personally. But I'm not as big on these guys. But if you do like them, obviously run them. If you're wanting to run things for fun, nothing wrong with that. They're fun. Their move is great. Cleave is nice to have, especially somewhat early, because a lot of our stuff that cleaves more is heavy units. So you can get some cleave into the opponent early. You get some cleave in quick because they have the better move. So there's something, but I'm not super thrilled with them personally. Let's talk about the other ones. Let's talk about the other guy. First thing to talk about is who takes the other ones, the Kerykes. So Fallen Divinity can take them as a mainstay. I honestly forgot about that because when I take the Divinity, I proxy some stuff obviously, but I just don't usually proxy them because I want the other units instead. Hierodeacon takes them as a mainstay. I believe that's actually it. So I clicked on both of those. They wouldn't show up. And Archimandrite does not. Yeah, so it's just those two. So if you're taking Divinity, gives you an option. Although for Divinity, I usually take Bucephali or Caratids or maybe Incantaphores instead, because you only get two regiments. Hierodeacon, though, that is a legit play. Because when we take a look at the Hierodeacon, the Hierodeacon can take a lot of those special things that the Divinity can, but needs to take more mainstay because they're all the cool things that are restricted. Which cultists are coming out, gives you an option. Legionnaires or cultists with the Hierodeacons is the way I take them. If you want to take two of the restricted, unit of Centaurs, the Kerykes are a great way to be able to actually open up to get more. And like I said, they're actually really, really cool looking unit. We didn't open that particular part of them. There they are. They are similar, but they have bows and they have wings. And faces and armor is a little different. If you notice, the Prodromoi have open chests. They actually have a little bit more armor. And we're going to notice they are more armored. So I do like their look a little bit better. I am concerned at how fiddly these sort of back pieces are for transport purposes. But hey, that's my problem, not theirs. So let's talk about them, and then we'll talk about both overall and what kind of things you can do with them. So I'll leave these guys open by themselves. Move 8 just as fast. They actually have a volley 2 because they actually do have shooting attacks. They are clash 2, same as I think. 4 attacks, 4 wounds. Notice they are the base defense 3 instead of 2 with shield. So that means they are better defended in other flanks and arcs and things like that. And the same with 8 of 1. They are more expensive. They're 30 more points for the 3 pack, 10 more points per stand. They do have the leader, of course. And Vessel and Terrifying, that's fine. They do have 3-shot barrage at 16-inch range, which is a good range. With an 8 move and 16-inch shot, that is legitimate distances, because now you're hitting half the board. Armor piercing 1, which if you're shooting, having a few less shots with armor piercing is something, honestly, I've been liking lately, because I can yes, this is another spot where the ceiling is lower, but I find a lot of the things I want to plink the damage into has an okay save, and I just want to lower it a little bit more, especially when they combine it with Deadly Shot. If anyone doesn't remember, for Deadly Shot, when you're volleying, if they roll a 6 on the defense, they take 2 wounds. They also have Sure Shot as the memory involved, so when that goes off, you don't care about obscuring terrain or anything like that in terms of shooting. So you're not going to be having your shots related to any of those things. That means by the time that goes off, you're 3 dice naturally, leader's sitting on 4, so a little 3-pack's throwing 10 dice. And if you can get in half range, 8 inches, which isn't too tough when you're a move 8. And since you don't care about terrain, you're okay with having some woods or something like that between you to be hampering them and not hampering yourself. You're now looking at 13 or so attacks. Again, you're on 2s, but under the right circumstances, obviously you can take aim, get a little bit better. You have, they're -1 for their saves, and then you're hoping if they spike and roll some 6s, you're going to put a lot more into them. You can never bank on 6s, but as someone who just the other day went against a unit of Cares that were at Dark Power level 4, and I was taking 5 wounds for every 6 that got rolled, it's a thing. If you roll a couple 6s, it absolutely matters. They're medium as well, but that's a good spot for a shooting unit. Don't get me wrong, light shooting units are great, but I don't mind a shooting unit at medium, especially with a move 8, because that means 1, if I have some lights, and these guys come on turn 2, I could come up the board, I could come on from a reinforcement, and with 16-inch range, 8-inch move, it gives me realistic shots to be able to fire into people. If someone's pushing down on a flank, I can do that. Even if not, if they're just moving up the middle of the board, if I delay them till the end, and the person has crossed the midline at all, then you're within range. Because their range is effectively 24. So as soon as they cross the midline, I can respond, start getting some shots into them. Maybe if they're not a healing type unit, whatever I'm facing, or the army doesn't heal, then I can put some shots into them. And then I usually might have them go, if I don't think the unit's going to be able to get super far, then I'll just shoot again. Or then we're looking at, if I think they will be pushing forward, then I can wait a little bit, let them get forward enough that either maybe they're in effective range, or I can move and get effective range, or if I just want to go early because maybe I did some decent damage to them, go early with your shooting unit, aim, fire, take another standoff or anything like that. You really lowered what they can do back to you. With the base defense of 3, again, without a resolve, you have a decent ability to stick around. And like I said, once you get that memory of old going off, because we've been starting to play with a lot more terrain personally, when you have a good amount of terrain, that's going to help you out because then you can sit on the opposite sides of terrain. If you can't move into it so that we don't take the penalties, that's fine. Make sure they don't get their impact, they don't get their inspired if they come at you, because you want to be able to stick around. 16 is a little bit on the shorter side, but with a move of 8, like I said, it gets you enough to get you close enough to be able to get shots early. Yeah, 20 inches is better, but 20 inches on a move 5 is about the same as 16 on 8. The biggest difference, like I said, is if you are anywhere near the front and effective, then they can charge you. But with that move, try to stay out of it or get someone else in the way. These are cavalry, so they count as a little bit bigger, so they can see a little bit easier, other units and all, so something to keep in mind as well. These guys actually I'm really excited for. So the ones I'm going to get, I don't know how many I'm going to get, kind of depends on, I know when they're going to drop, it depends on timing and stuff like that for me. I'm definitely going to get these guys. I'm probably going to end up going with 2 boxes for them. The other ones, I don't know if I'm going to bother with any. I might proxy them for a while and just see if I think they're cool. But these guys I'd like to do too. I like my shooting units in little blocks of 3. I wouldn't run all 6 in one giant unit, but I would consider maybe a unit of 4. But overall, I do enjoy like 2 little 3-packs. 180 points each one of those isn't too bad. If I can get them to come in the same turn, they come in somewhat similar position, then they could both volley into someone, maybe both take them down over, say, turn 2 and 3 shots. Then turn 4, now I can break them apart and send them to finish off targets or to start softening targets for my other units that are coming in. Anything that's approaching, say, a Legionnaire unit, who the Legionnaires are not going to survive someone hitting them too hard. So if you can take a standoff, you might be able to eliminate a lot of attacks coming at them. Or finishing off someone that maybe the Cavalry couldn't quite finish off. There's that stand left with a few wounds. Happened to me the other day. I had a Rakshasa go into a unit of Legionnaires and I left them alive with 1 wound. I did 11 out of 12. And then I got lit up because I was in a bad position. All right, well, if that's the case, these guys go first, take that thing down. Now the Cavalry are free to roam. So I like their speed and their range a lot. When we compare them to our other big range unit, Kerykes, you're looking at very similar distance because Kerykes are 20 but move 6, 16 but move 8, so it's pretty similar in distance. Obviously, Kerykes have a better armor piercing, but these guys do have the deadly shot. Similar number of shots base, although you can get more, obviously with their memories of old, fluid formation helps. But you are looking at more points, and you're looking at, to me, reasonably similar otherwise, but they do work a little bit different. When we talk a little bit about those differences, one, the Centaurs, the Kerykes, are maybe, they can spike well early because of that deadly shot. Otherwise, they're very similar, although they do have a leader, so they do shoot a little bit more. The Kerykes are a little bit worried about movement since they do have the 4 extra inches of range, but they are a little bit slower. So if someone is starting to get into a threatening range, they really they have a lot harder time getting away, I find. Those few extra difference in inches can absolutely make a difference. And yeah, when the memories of old are happening, you get a better bonus from the Kerykes, but you are paying a little bit more for it. And they are working a little bit different. So early, I kind of like the Kerykes. A little bit later, probably the Kerykes. But I do think there's a place for them. And again, I don't think you have to go like, what is the absolute best? I think if you can fit a good role, then I'm happy with you. Even when I play competitive, because I do play competitive. I have a tournament this upcoming Sunday. Hopefully some people show it. because of some personal things going on, wasn't really able to advertise this. We're going to find out. If not, I'll just hang out with some people that are there and play a couple games. Like if the tournament doesn't happen, who cares? I'm playing Conquest. That's all I care about. So if you're doing that, you can talk about min-max. And if people ever want to do min-max, we'll go through and we'll go through the statistics of how to represent what a min-max is. But to me, I think either one is an absolutely fine choice. I do think you have to take into account when you're talking about, say, you're not running a divinity list. If you're running a hierodeacon, that the hierodeacon takes it as a mainstay, but the other options are restricted. So I think that's something to consider as well. But I do really like these. Again, are they better than Keratids? Maybe not. But that's fine. I want a unit that when I play it, I feel they're going to do me good. I can envision in my mind what they're going to try to do for me. Obviously, my opponent's goal is to not let my units do what I want to do. But I can see all that, and I'm happy with that spot for them. They give me something a little bit different. When we look at the Prodromoi, I think when you do the direct comparison part, or semi-direct comparison, the other unit, they're very similar to another Cav unit, but they're not better. Of these two, I do prefer the Kerykes. I do prefer the shooting option, personally. I know I'm spending a few more points. It's a little bit more expensive, but I am preferring what they do. And then when I think of I want a hit-you-in-the-face Cav, I prefer Cataphracti. So the Prodromoi, I have a hard time seeing where I want to do with them because they have this weird middling where the other part of the dual box I like a little more, and the other unit that fits a kind of purpose like them, I like a little more. So, as for what I would do with these things, buffs and things like that, when we look at either of them, obviously Archimandrite being able to heal them up 4 wounds is tough when you're Cav, but 4 wounds is pretty nice when you're talking about healing because you can heal them up very, very easily. So being able to heal them up, counting their dart power pool is higher, so you can be getting their memories of old. If you're taking the Prodromoi, you absolutely want to use that so you can get your impact, because without the impact, they're not really getting it done for you. But with that, you could hit them with a spell, then rush them forward, do some impact, do some swings, and get something into someone early in the game. Again, I'd rather do it Cataphracti, but hey, it's absolutely an option that you have. Those are the main spells that would help there. You could give them Aura Death, which isn't bad if you're going to be rushing, more for the Prodromoi, if you're going to be rushing them forward. So if you're going to rush them up and get them into something, between your impact, your swings, and some Aura Death, that might be enough to actually be able to finish someone off before they actually get into you. So that could work. We're talking look at the Hierodeacon instead. Spells and all that don't really help. So it's not really going to do you any good. Would I take the Mounted Strategos with either of them? If I'm taking a Mounted Strategos... Okay, if you're going to take the Mounted Strategos, I don't know how you don't take Cataphracti, but if you don't want to... actually, here's what I'll tell you. I actually think about it this way. Like later today, I should be teaching someone who's new to the game to play. They have 12 or 1,500 points, like their first game, teaching them the game. I don't bring Cataphracti to any game where you don't know what you're doing well, because I can't downplay that unit. Let's briefly discuss when you're teaching someone, obviously, not that you have to lose, but your goal shouldn't be to win. Your goal should be to let them learn their army, see cool stuff, and probably them win. But again, dice are dice. So if I get into you and I just happen to roll good dice, I can't stop that. Cataphracti are hard to downplay because once the memories of old are active, when they hit something, they're really going to hurt it in general, which means the centaurs might be early if you want Cav and you want people to see Cav, but you don't want to punish them. Like when I play a game, I tell people with the way I bring my Cataphracti unit, say, do you know what these guys do? Because if you don't know what they're going to do and you can't and you don't plan for it or you don't anticipate it, if things go my way, it's going to wreck you. If they don't go my way, then I'm going to lose 400, 500 points and do nothing with it. But you need to know that. Centaurs are a good way, especially if wherever you are, you want to run cav, but the cataphracti are just, people aren't enjoying it kind of thing. I still think the centaurs are good. I think they have a place, and I think they're a good way to be able to add a little diversity to the list without making the list maybe hit someone in the face the same sort of way. They're a little more, maybe more fair. They're a little more even. The cataphracti spike harder, but their bottom is a little bit tougher because if they get into someone with good defense, they have no cleave, they have no way out. Where the Prodromoi at least have a cleave, so they have a little bit better shot of getting through someone once they're kind of stuck in. But would I take him that way? Again, if I want to not be tooled to the nines, yes. And again, I'm not saying you can't make these guys good, but cataphracti you can make better if you're willing to invest the points. If you want a little bit cheaper, yeah. I don't think there's anything putting him wrong with that because he does have impact too. He's got some brutal impact. He has some treasures. I don't know if any of them are really going to help that much that it goes in. Tenacious might not be bad because then you just get the one freebie on all your saves effectively. Other than, actually in this one, I think he gets in challenges as well, if memory serves. But you get all that. Oh no, Tenacious works there. Giving him Bless, you don't really care about that. It doesn't go to the whole unit. Other things I'm not quite as worried about. If you want to take something, that's an option. But even then, I'd keep him cheap. I honestly usually don't take upgrades on him. Inspired one might not be bad. The Kerykes. Touchable. Flurry for him is fine. There's some options you could take. Break their lines, giving you Line Breaker isn't bad because Line Breaker and Cleave 1 is actually pretty big. So if you want to get into people, since we're not allowed to inspire, that means instead of the Inspired Clash, which everyone else does, we just Clash. So being able to do the action. Oh, sorry. My apologies. It moved. The action, break their lines, and then swing. Now you're removing shields, you're removing Bastion, and your Cleave 1. Now you're doing something. And for only 20 extra points, now you might actually get some numbers in. So I think that's absolutely an option as well. If you want to take him, honestly, that might be what I take on him. He might be the one who takes the Implacable. He can take Implacable, right? Yeah, combat. Good. I was worried he wouldn't take it. If I'm going to do that, maybe that's what I do. Because now you are theoretically, I'm more of like Cleave 2. Theoretically 3, because I know the other day when I was playing against something, I was playing against some Praetorians who have Bastion +1. So Memory of Old, high enough level, they did it again. Shields, all of that. They were like sitting on 5s. Be able to remove all of that and be able to get through you. Now I like it. All right, I talked myself into a way to play Centaurs that I enjoy. If I take that and I give them break their lines, now I'm okay with Centaurs. Would I still take Cataphracti if I'm going for like all out big play? Yeah, I'd take that instead. But if I want to take these guys, I like them with the Mount Strategos, and I like them with Line Breaker. Now I'm having fun with them. If I'm taking the Ziliarch, if I'm taking the Ziliarch, the only reason I'm taking that is because the Ziliarch's going in my ranking guard, and I want a cav unit. If I'm not seeing a Strategos, this is a good way to get a close combat cav unit. But Strategos is the only one who goes in there. We talked about the spells that could aid them, not tons and tons of aid. So, list. Yeah. I think maybe after this, since we have everything put together, maybe I'll do a little bit of list. I would say if I was doing Fallen Divinity, I'm probably not taking it. If I'm taking a Hydra Deacon, I am taking a shooting unit. I am taking a Kerykes. If I'm taking Mount Strategos, I could absolutely see the Centaur Prodromoi. If I'm taking Ziliarch, only if I want a different action to Varangian Guard. I don't want more Legionnaires, but I kind of want more Legionnaires most of the time. So that gives a little bit of ideas of what I would do with them, the way I would try to play them. I think you have to be smart with them. The lack of resolve helps your survivability, but only 4 wounds. If someone does get tons of swings into you, you still will go down because you don't have the wounds of some other heavier cav and all of that. And some of the really heavy cav has really good resolve anyway. So a flat instead of like a 5 isn't really much difference. I think if it's the shooting unit, I think those are one of the first units you want turn 2. and you make them the very last thing that you go with, and you see how much your opponent is playing up. If you have some lights, I think you absolutely do it. If not, I could see you delaying, but I probably want them on because usually there's something in your opponent's army that's pushing. And if they have pushed up enough, then I can get that unit and start getting shots down turn 2. If I can get turn 2, turn 3 shots, maybe by turn 4 something's done, and then I can start rushing around. Since they are medium, gives you a chance to score. The other thing I'll say for Prodromoi, the close combat unit, what's nice, we tend to be slower, and when they were light, they weren't going to score. At least this unit now can score. So if you have a mission where you need to get to, say, like center of the board, because either the opponent's there or you want to score early, or it matters more so because we know some missions, they score more in certain times. This is a unit that can get around to score. So maybe I keep them cheap at the 150 points, and they're just a mobile scoring bunker. I was playing, I forget the name of the mission the other day, but it's like, here's the turns where these matter more, the outside, and then turns where the middle matters more. This is a unit that can rush back and forth between those two sides. So I could be playing them for the sole fact of grabbing those spots, and then as they go across, hey, someone shows a flank, I hit them to kind of try to finish off a unit. But for 150 points, something that can just make sure it gets me points, can get to the other points because of its speed, or has a little bit of fight, has enough fighting power that they would have to actually, they're not going to be able to throw a unit of like their legionnaires at it because it'll be able to take that down. So they have to throw something with a little bit something extra into it. I think that's an option. So I taught myself more to the Prodromoi because for the role that they do and the points they can do that role in. But again, if my goal is still just something big and heavy, I'm not taking them. If my goal is the damage, I'm probably still not taking them. But I do think they serve a purpose. But for my money, and I put my money where my mouth is because I buy this stuff, I'm going to be building the Kerykes first. I will probably get a unit of these guys later, but for now, I'm probably going to try to do two boxes of Kerykes. That way I can do 2-3 packs and use that as some range options. And just kind of see. I'm going to be doing another video somewhat soon about ranged and how much to bring or how much is too much and all of that. But I do feel if you can bring it, some range is very, very important. And I like the idea of that. So, all right. Well, that'll do it for this particular video. Hopefully, Monday should be recording a battle report with Steve. That's the goal. There's some other ones I have worked to edit on. Like I said, I didn't release a video about what happened. I still might do something just because it's sort of cathartic for me to do so. But things are in a better spot now, which means can get back to recording more regularly, which I do because honestly, I enjoy this. I really like doing this stuff. So there's a few other things. There's a few other things I have to edit. There's a few more videos I have planned in mind. As I was saying in the last video, it might be a little bit before we get some more normal episodes out in terms of long form podcasts, but there'll be plenty of Conquest content. Hopefully, like I said, some more battle reports and stuff like that coming out just because of some things that are going on for the other two guys. My life is now more solid, but theirs has become less. So we're going to keep getting stuff out. With some stuff coming up, might be also looking to talk to some of the community, to have them come on to discuss things as well, especially when we get to topics that I'm just not as well versed in. I know all the armies, but there's ones where there might be little tricks and all that I just personally don't know because I don't play them. From the last Bazaar, I technically now have 100 Kingdoms and Spires, though I have to build that stuff. But there's still other armies that I just don't know quite as well, like Wadroon. So I'm going to try to have some of those guys from the community come on to talk about all of that. But that's enough for this particular thing. Like I said, remember, if you're trying to purchase these units, any other units, anything of interest for Conquest, one great game. Absolutely, communities are growing. Love to see that. Love to see on Reddit all the people talking about, hey, I'm just about to buy in this game. Or I just bought into this game. What do I do now? Where do I go? One, if you have friends doing that, point them to anything that I do. If there's anything that you want to see or hear talked about, put it in the comments. I have no problem talking. I talk for a living. And I would love to see the sorts of things that people want discussed. And like I said, if you want to pick up any Conquest stuff, the code Terrain Kickers we have in the show notes as well. Saves you 10%, helps us out, does good for everyone. And we do thank everyone who has used it. And so we do have a Patreon as well, but since this can save you money and help us, I push this more because it makes more sense. It gives you guys something. And that's the point of doing this, is because I enjoy it and it gives something back, kind of thing. So, all right, well, that'll do it for me on this particular episode. So on behalf of everyone here at the show, have some good hobbying and some great gaming.